Hi, my name is Alex, and today we are going to look at the very basics of a C# program. There are many different programming languages out there, and while this series of tutorials will focus on C#, I will try to teach you how to think like a programmer and be able to gather information from your tools and all kinds of other sources so that you are not bound by a specific language. After all, as a programmer, our job is to manipulate data and solve problems. Programming languages are simply a tool available to us to do exactly that. Nonetheless, C# is a great programming language to learn because it has easy syntax, a lot of great tools available for it to make your life easier. It is a very sought after in the industry, has many different applications such as simple tools, windowed applications, and even gaming. For example, Unity is a very popular game engine and it uses C# as its main scripting language. Well, I think we have covered enough theory for now, so let's get started. Throughout this series I will be using Visual Studio 2015, and you can find a download link in the description below. However, if you would like to use a different development environment such as Xamarin, everything in this tutorial that is programming related would still apply to you. Now, let's start by opening up Visual Studio. Once it is open, you should be greeted with this start page. On the left, you can see that there is a new project button. You can also find this button by going to File, then hovering over New, and then selecting Project. Once you click on Project, a new project creation window pops up. On the left side of this window are all the different templates for the languages and project types that you have installed. In our case, we want a C# project, and then select Console Application. This is the most basic application type that uses the Windows console for displaying output and receiving input. Now, give the project a name, such as First Project. You can also select a location where to create the project files, and once that is all complete, we press OK and wait for Visual Studio to create our new project. Once the project is created, Visual Studio opens up the program.cs file. This file will contain all the code we write in this video. At the start of the file, we can see there are a lot of lines beginning with the word using. I will talk more about those in a later video. Further down, we can see that there is a special keyword, namespace, followed by the name of our project. Namespaces, as the name implies, let us create named spaces. You could think of these spaces like folders on a computer that contain specific files. The namespaces help organize our code, and just like how different folders can contain different files with the same name, namespaces let different classes with the same name exist at the same time. This could be useful in more complex projects where you have made, for example, a client class, and another developer wants to also create a client class and use the logic you defined to create their own logic. Namespaces can be named to whatever you like, with the exception that the name must start with a letter. Note that it is convention to use Pascal casing in C#, and that means that every word in a name starts with a capital letter. After the namespace is the class keyword. We'll get more into classes in a later video. Just like the name of our namespace follows the namespace keyword, the name of our class, in this case program, follows the class keyword. After the class, we can see a function, static, void, main, and then in parentheses, string, square brackets, args. We'll talk more about functions and how to define them in a later video, but for now, just remember that a function is kind of like a robot that performs a specific task. The main function is the very first function that the operating system calls when your program starts. You may have noticed that after the function, class and namespace names are curly brackets. These curly brackets define what is called a scope, and everything that exists between those curly brackets belongs to that scope. The curly brackets after the main function identify the scope of the function, and everything that is written between those curly brackets will execute when the function is called, and this is where we will write our code. We are making a console application, and to interact with the console, C# has a static class called console. Pay attention that the class name starts with a capital C, just like the Pascal casing convention we used for namespaces. C# is a case-sensitive language, so console with a capital C and with a lowercase c are two different things. To access the different functions that the console class has, we use the dot operator, and then Visual Studio shows us a menu with all the possible static functions that we can use from the console class. When I watched back the recording, I realized that I messed up with the recording settings and none of the pop-up menus actually show in the video, but if you are following along, you would see them. For now, we choose the WriteLine function. In the menu with all the functions, you can select the WriteLine function with your arrow keys and press enter, or double-click it with the mouse. Or otherwise, you can also type the function name out. In C#, if you want to call the function and make the function execute its code, always after the function name are parentheses, even if you don't put anything inside of them. Once you open the first parenthesis, Visual Studio shows a small tooltip that shows all the information you need to give to the function for it to work. If you notice that there is a counter with an up and down arrow in the tooltip, that means that there are many different versions of this function, each accepting different information. In order to see all the possible versions, you can use the up and down arrow keys. The version we are interested in is the one that asks for a string, which is text. To represent text in most programming languages, we use double quotation marks and write the text in between them. As is tradition when creating your very first program, we will write "Hello World" for our string. And then, at the end of the line, we put a semicolon. Every line of code must end with a semicolon. There are some exceptions to that rule, such as when you are creating a function and creating a scope for the function. To declare a scope, we use an opening curly bracket and a closing curly bracket. Since there is a closing curly bracket, C# knows where the end of the function is, and a semicolon is not needed. Now that that is done, we can press start and run our program. Whoa, what just happened? Let me press start again, and with the magic of video editing, let's see what is happening in slow motion. It looks like the program is launching, a console window opens, says "Hello World," and then immediately closes. You might think it's strange at first, but let's take a look at the code. When we launch the program, the code starts from inside the main function. In the function, we call console.WriteLine with our "Hello World" text. After the WriteLine is complete, we reach the closing curly bracket of the main function, which means that the function is done. And the moment the main function finishes, the operating system knows that the program finished doing its job and closes it, which is why our console window closes really fast. How do we fix it then? Well, we have to make it so that the main function doesn't finish right after the WriteLine. One way of doing that is to use the console class once again, but this time, instead of writing to the console, we will read from the console. Reading from the console means that we wait for the user to provide some input and then press enter. The read function automatically waits and pauses the program until the user presses enter. Just like when we wanted to call WriteLine, to call read, we start by writing the name of the class, console, followed by the dot operator, and then choosing the read function. The read function does not need any information, but we still need to put parentheses and then a semicolon. Let's run our program now, and would you look at that? We can see our console window with our "Hello World." To close the program, either press the X on the console window or simply hit enter on your keyboard. Congratulations on making your very first program. In the next video, we will come back to this program and look at how we can change the background and foreground colors of our text, and have a small conversation with the user. But why wait? See if you can figure out how to change the text on your own, and then check back with the next video to see if you were correct. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to leave a like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon for future videos. For any questions, leave a comment and I will gladly help out with any problems that you may have. This has been your friendly neighborhood programming guide, Alex. Thanks for watching.